Visible?
Yes, yes. Start, ma'am. Madam, start, please start.
Yeah. So, hello, learners. Welcome again. Um, very happy to see you all here. Today, the topic of our discussion is Good Governance and Right to Information Act. These terms are very much known to you, and we normally talk about the governance. But today, we shall be discussing that what is good governance, and this is a part of your course MSD 015, which very specifically talks about institutions, governance, and policies. So, in the context of sustainability and sustainable development, we have read about in different courses, we have seen that what are the threats and what are the challenges and what are the opportunities available for us for sustainable development and to promote sustainability. But in this aspect, the role of governance becomes very crucial because whatever we plan and whatever as a sustainability professional we are proposing before the government and whatever we are advocating for the conservation of our natural resources and for healthy survival of we the human beings on this planet, governance becomes very important because it follows from top to bottom. It comes the policies, the strategies, the plans, the rules, the regulations, the economics of any country, everything is a part of the governance. So you must have attended some sessions on governance and you must be knowing that what governance is all about. But today we are talking about what is good governance and what is the meaning of adding that subjective good before the governance. So let us start our discussion. Can we have our, uh, I don't know, the slide show is there. Can I move on to the next slide? Yeah. So, what is governance? If we talk about governance, it is the exercise of economic, political, and administrative affairs. And how do we see that the decisions being taken at the top level and how the affairs of the country are managed at different levels? This is actually a part of the decision making, how the decisions are made at different levels, the economic decisions, the political decisions, and the administrative authorities, how they are deciding on the different aspects. So that is governance. And it is not just the routine implementation of policies and programs, because as simple as that it may seem that whatever the rules and regulations are framed, and when we abide by them, whatever the policies and programs and different spheres of development particularly we are framing, so it is not just that we implement the policies and the programs and we make the citizens avail those facilities and the services. It is not simply that, because governance is much above the government. Okay. And it dates back to the ancient times also. You must have studied about Kautilya. You must be knowing about the Sarvodaya concept which was proposed by Mahatma Gandhi. You must have known and you must have studied about the Plato's teachings on governance. So it makes it encompasses a whole system because it is a broad discipline. It is a broad subject of study. It is a part of social sciences, you can say, which includes political science, public administration, economics, political systems, and so on and so forth. So it includes a lot many things when we talk about governance, because it is not just framing the rules and the policies, but it also makes the government accountable. It also makes the people accountable for performance or non-performance of their duties as the citizens of their country. So there are different issues and different facets of governance. and it is also has to be participative. It is not a one way process where the government only is involved in the governance, as it is normally believed that governance is something which is managing the state of the affairs from the government's perspective. But we do not imagine that it is also the citizens of a country and a responsible citizens. They are also important, and also they play a very important role in the governance. So Kautilya, as I was just mentioning about Kautilya, he himself has said when we talked about Shasan and Sushasan, what we call it. So it is Sushasan when the king is, the duty of the king is to make the services and also for the welfare of the citizens. So he does not put himself on the priority, but he puts the citizens and the common man and the countryman above his happiness. So that is the meaning of the good governance. And similarly, Mahatma Gandhi has talked about Sarvodaya, as I was mentioning. So governance can be centralized governance or the decentralized governance, you can say. So when it is a centralized governance, it follows from top to bottom, whereas the authorities at the top, they manage the affairs of the country. And when we talk about the decentralized governance, it means that the responsibility and the authority is also vested in the lower stratas, the lower levels of administration. They are also empowered so that they may also can make policies and rules abiding by the local conditions and according to their social and the cultural context. So that was about the ancient times, how governance has evolved. And if we talk about the modern times again, during the 1989 and so, the talks about good governance grew, and the World Bank and several other international regulatory bodies were involved in it, and they precisely coined the term good governance. They defined it, that what is the good governance and also what are the objectives and the challenges and the different barriers which are there towards having a kind of a good governance in the country. So it has a three components, you can say. Governance goes by the three parts of the government. It is the state, it is the civil society, and it is the market. And three of these tiers have an important role. So state is responsible for managing the affairs related to rules, law and order, security. So that is the function of the state, to maintain and to have an optimum economic, political, and the legal environment in the country. Whereas the market gives us the opportunities. What opportunities are provided by the market so as to the common man can utilize those opportunities and they can improve the standard of living. Because see, if governance on one side and the development on the other side, they most of the times they go hand in hand. What is governance? Governance is actually, you can say, for the development of the country, whatever the rules and regulations and policies and programs are framed. So motto of the governance as well as the development both lies in the service of the countrymen for the overall, you can say, development of the countrymen from the economic perspective. So the market here gives us the ample opportunities, provides the ample opportunities for survival, for livelihoods, and proper working environment, you can say. And the civil society acts as a bridge, acts as a mediator connection between the government and also the people in between. So it ensures healthy participation of the people because it provides them the information which is required by the people. It plays an important role to check whether the government is providing the facilities and is also working for the welfare of the people. So these three, whether it is a civil society, state, and the market, you can say, they are the three, you can say, the three tiers of good governance systems, and they are also a part of the government which ensure that how the good governance takes place and how development is taking place by means of good governance which is there. So, what is good governance? Enough we have talked about the governance, and enough we have talked about the major, you can say, the makeup of the governance in a country. But when we talk about good governance, it is the approach of the government that is committed to creating a system which is founded in justice and peace, and that protects individual human rights and civil liberties, you can say. So it is a kind of, you can say, as we were just talking just now, that whether what is the purpose of adding good before the governance, because governance already does all these things. But when it is a good governance, it also has a participation, it has an accountability, it has a transparency, it has abiding by the rule and the legal structure, so as to have justice and peace, because that is very important. The ultimate aim of good governance is not just to please the authorities and to serve only a section of the population in a country, but also it is there for the social justice, to see that all the sections of the community are equally benefited, equality of opportunities given to all the sections of the people. And it also protects individual human rights, because we have the right to living. All the human rights which are there, they are protected by means of good governance. So, in other words, it is the public administration process. Yes, it is the public administration process, because that is why in the beginning we said that governance is a part of the social sciences which has public administration involved in it. So, but it is a part of the public administration, that is true. It is a process. It is not a one time job, it is a process, but it maximizes public interest. So, that is very important, because all the you can say whatever the activities which are being done under good governance, they all are there for the maximizing of the public interest, and that is the ultimate objective. So, former UN Secretary Kofi Annan, in line with this, when we talk about the social justice and all, good governance is perhaps, he has said and he has quoted very rightly, that it is the single most important factor in eradicating poverty and promoting development. The principles of good governance, when followed properly, when objectives are framed properly, you can say that it helps in a great deal to fight against the poverty and other evils which are present in the social setup, and ultimately it helps promoting the development. So that is very important, because by good governance, there are so many attributes and so many elements of good governance by virtue of which a proper public working and proper working of the public institutions and regulatory bodies is ensured. And we can say that at one point it helps towards ending poverty by addressing certain issues, for example, like corruption, for example, you can say bureaucratic system, exploitation of various kinds. So all these can be addressed by means of good governance in place. So the term the modern good governance, because it has its roots in our ancient thinkers and ancient political systems. Yes, it is already there, but the modern term was used for the first time in 1989 by the World Bank and the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. They called good governance, it is a process of decision making. So, how the decisions are made in public forums, and the process by which the decisions are implemented, or you may say not implemented, whatever it is. So, first, it is a process which explains very clearly that how the decisions are made, who are the stakeholders, who are the influencers by those decisions, and how these decisions are implemented, if they are, and if they are not implemented, then how these decisions are not implemented. So this was the initial, you can say it was the initial simplest way of explaining that what is good governance, that it explains every step in the decision making. So whenever any development model or any development work, you can say, which comes before us and before the authorities, it encompasses the whole process of decision making and the means and virtues by which the decisions are being made. So it has different components by which it comes into and comes before the public so that they can have their opinion on that. So it encompasses a whole process in it. So that is why good governance has a government, includes a government that is effective, efficient, economical, and also ethical. The ruling, you can say, body, that is the government. It has to be effective, it has to be efficient, means you can see there are different measures and variables by which you can measure the efficiency and effectiveness. Economics is very important and also ethical grounds. Then it has an administration by which you can say, we were talking just now that how decisions are implemented, how the policies are implemented. So this is the administration which is citizen friendly, caring, and responsive, which listens to the needs of the citizens and the people so that the optimum services can be provided to them. Then it is the governing process. It is just, reasonable, economical, and ethical. Means the whole process by which the government is elected, by which the decisions are being made, how the rules and regulations are implemented, what are the executives, legislators, and other regulatory bodies doing their job. So this whole process has to be made very fair, very equitable, and ethical in true sense, where no one is, you can say, no one is denied any right which they are uh, which they are entitled to. So according to United Nations, good governance is measured by so many attributes. Most important ones are here, which are being listed and which are there before your screens. It is the participation, active participation of all stakeholders is very essential. Participation of the government, the different bodies, participation of the citizens, the stakeholders, the decision makers, and access to all systems of the government. So all the working bodies, people should have access regarding taking information and all. So participation is must, because governance in the beginning, it is very clear, it's not a one-way process. It encompasses not only authority, responsibility, and accountability from the government perspective, but also the people have to play a very crucial role, because they have to see that whatever the plans have been put, whether they have been implemented properly or not. So that kind of exercise is very essential on the part of the public also, so that the standards, the performance standards which have been placed, they are met or not. So that will be checked only when the public is entitled, aware, and equally participated to monitor the performance of the government and other bodies. Then rule of law is measures the good governance, because it states about the impartial legal systems where the rules are framed by suitable legislature, judiciary is independent. Transparency is very essential, because access to information regarding decision making by RTI coming up and other tools, the system as of now is more transparent than before, because we have access to the different, if I am affected by the decision, so in the decision making processes, if the system is transparent, then I must know, if I am affected by those decisions, then I have full right to know what are the consequences and what has been the cause for this and that. So that makes the system very transparent. Responsiveness refers to response of the institutions to the stakeholders. So, whoever are the communities, whoever are the people, their voice, their opinions, their concerns, their issues must be responsively, should be, you can say, heard by the government authorities or the ruling parties. So that shows the responsiveness. So good governance is only when we have a participation, proper legal systems in place, and also the responsiveness and transparencies on the part of the bodies. Then again, we have consensus oriented. There are different social, historical, cultural context in which the decisions are being made. So, whatever the decisions are made, there has to be consensus with the communities, because this consensus, it varies from place to place. So, the the plans which may have been very successful at one place may not be that much successful at another place because of the difference in the backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, and the diversity which prevails. So that is why decisions have to be consensus oriented. There has to be equity and inclusiveness, because we cannot put any community, we cannot make any distinction on the basis of the different communities which are there in our country, whether it is the disadvantaged, the marginalized, the minorities, the weaker sections. So good governance has an inclusion and empowerment of all the members of the community. That is very important. The effectiveness and efficiency refers to, if we talk about the efficiency, that means it talks about the sustainable use of the resources, particularly the resources which may get exhausted. Energy resources are very effective because in the wake of sustainability issues coming up, so use of the resources in a proper judicious manner is very necessary. And effectiveness comes from the training of the civil servants who are there, the personnel who are there in implementing the decisions, and working group of the people. So that is also very essential, and accountability is most important, because accountability refers to answerability, you can say. Redressal system must be in place. So it is an individual accountability as well as it is the institutional accountability. It is a political accountability, economic accountability. So you know, the governing bodies, the public organizations, and as public officers, the accountability plays a very important role, because institutions are accountable for their decisions which they have made, aftermaths of those decisions. So not only they are accountable to the public, but also they are accountable for each other, the different departments. And here also it is very important that the people are also accountable towards the governing and towards the governance, you can say. So, what are the objectives? So, why this whole exercise? What happens because of good governance? Because in a broad umbrella shell, we can say that good governance is essential for improving and providing the services to the people for the welfare and for the development. But these are some of the minute objectives, you can say, which very clearly tell us that what happens because of good governance in place. So it provides essential services to the citizens: water, electricity, roads, infrastructure, law and order. These are essential services. So governance, in good governance, is that which gives the basic services to the citizens. There are places which do not have electricity. There are places which do not have tap waters. So it all fails when we are not able to provide essential services to the people. Then empowerment of the people through dissemination of information, that is very essential, and it comes under transparency. By RTI coming up, the dissemination of information is done in a very transparent manner, and people are empowered by this when they know the different information converted, because nowadays media has a very important role in this, that gets converted into the electronic format, the different reports, everything coming up. So people are empowered. Ensuring transparency, what we just discussed, that it's important, not only the government but the business transactions, financial transparency, everywhere it is very important, in all the government activities. Elimination of undesirable practices, we know that corruption is, we say that it is a necessary evil. We have accepted it, that it is there and it will always be there. So that undesirable practices, uh, whether it is a hoarding of money, black marketing, whatever you may call it, there are several undesirable practices going on in the markets, in the society. So it puts a cap on that. Encouraging public awareness and participation in the developmental efforts. So the new schemes coming up, new projects coming up, new ideas coming up, innovations coming up, people must be knowing about them. They should be equally participative in the decision making, and that strengthens the idea of the decentralized governance particularly. Then maintaining control over the assets, revenues, expenditures. improvement in the decision making process, because by forecasting the critical phenomena which may happen in the near future. So seeing all that well in advance and planning accordingly improves the decision making. Productivity, efficiency, and administrative functions need to be enhanced, need to be improved by knowledge network, and making administration responsive, citizen friendly, and ensuring accountability. So by good governance, it is a kind of a whole change in the makeover of the governing systems, by which it is not just passing on the orders and letting people obey, but it is a two-way process where it improves the all the facets where the decisions are being implemented. They also are having their say. Whoever are the makers of those decisions, they also have a very important stake, and it is not just coming from the top, but even from the at the lower level, at the lower governing bodies, they also have an important influence, you can say, on those decisions, because many a times these people, who are at the lower levels, they have more information with regards to certain activities. So, what are the elements of good governance? There is accountability. We were just talking about accountability. So, accountability of the government, of the public, of the civil society also, because every element which we discussed in the beginning has a role. So, accountability, answerability, redressal system, grievance addressal system, it encompasses all that. So, accountability is through authority, through responsibility, and at different levels of different people also, and different bodies, public bodies, whether it is a financial body, whether it is the civil societies, the general public, different groups of the people. So that accountability is there. Participation, we know that participation at all levels is very essential. Transparencies, effectiveness and efficiency, and rule of law, because everything is governed by the legal structure. So rule of law is very important. How the legislatures are formed, how the rules are being implemented, whether the judiciary is impartial or not. So these are some of the important elements of good governance. Then there are certain attributes. Now you have to understand what are the attributes, means how we can ensure that good governance takes place. What can be the steps in this direction? So number one step is right sizing governmental functions. There are certain functions which it is expected that only government will do, and they are those functions which the market forces cannot do. For example, law and order, security, infrastructure building, macroeconomic processes, these are the functions specifically of the government. So what do we mean by right sizing government functions? Means that there are certain functions of the government which can be allocated to the private sectors, which do not involve much of the policy planning, because it is very essential that certain services are there which can be performed by the government bodies only, but there are certain functions which can be given to the executive bodies, which can be given to the private sectors, and by virtue of which at at, at various levels, you can say, so that it is not that only one man job, but different groups, different organizations are involved, and it definitely helps in the more transparent working systems. So that is very essential, because allocation of certain functions to the executive, the private sectors were not much, because there is always a financial crunch kind of thing happening with the government departments and government bodies. So those things can be allocated and outsourced to the private units. So the work can be done, and also we can ensure a participation, because by simply saying participation may not work in the true sense. So, if we want to have effective participation, it is very essential that the first step of participation is involvement. So, we have to involve them, and then only we can see that the functions and other things are implemented properly. Then use of information technology, we have seen that how public offices can be made more effective and more, you can say, more tech savvy, and more information sharing is possible with the help of information technology. So the movement of the files and the record keeping, and how you can pass on the information space creation, so many things, with the help of this IT thing coming up, the information can be displayed. All the, you can say, data, whichever is possible, that can be shown to the public. So that also, helps to improve the governance system, because with the information technology coming up, there are more options available by which we can systemize the working procedures, and by we can also use this kind of work for the display of the information. Then delegation, ethics and participation, because delegation is authority, responsibility, and delegation and devolution, particularly at different levels. When we talk about the centralized versus decentralized governance, the delegation of powers to the subordinates, to the lower bodies, to the functional groups, that is very essential. And ethics, ethical codes, setting up of the ethical codes, and how ethics can be maintained in the working of the public officers, civil services training, ethics of the civil services officers, participation, all these makes up and involves the officers also at various levels, and it also ensures their accountability, because it has a kind of a two-way process, what we were saying just now, that when we have a proper ethical standards and performance standards in place, it makes the system more accountable. So it also calls for institutional reforms by way of good governance being in place for several years. It will require, because there is a difference between change and reform. So when we say that there is a change in the working of the government systems, that is because to you know to because the outside world has seen change, so the institution is changing. But when we talk about the institutional reforms, it is actually to remove the malpractices which are existing in the organizations. So institutional reforms can be constant reforms and can be episodic reforms. So constant reforms are, you can say, major changes happening, because in the COVID times we have seen that how IT is more used, and how transparent the systems have become, and how our working cultures and working styles have changed. So that comes under the constant reforms taking place. Okay, so there are constant reforms, episodic reforms, which takes place when the major changes takes place. So these, what we mean by the attributes of the good governance means, they are, they help in framing the structures by which the governance becomes more effective, and it is a kind of a more transparent system, more accountable systems, which has a role, which has equal participation of the people and of the all the organizations which are there. So by making government resize its functions, and also allowing more IT and participation, we can ensure that good governance is in place. Then there are certain principles, because it's just the same things taught and said in a principle form also, in an objective form also, and in attribute. So again, if we talk about the principles, it says that fair conduct of elections, representation and participation is essential. Responsiveness, effectiveness, efficiency, openness, transparency, rule of law, ethical conduct. So when we say that these are the principles, and when we say these are the attributes and the objectives, you must understand that how they differ from, in spite of being the same terminology, how does it differ when we say it in terms of how good governance is practiced. So, when I say that responsiveness is a principle of good governance, it explains that caring about the citizens and listening to their concerns is one of the basic foundation of good governance. Similarly, openness, transparency, rule of law, ethical conduct, competence, capacities, innovation, and open to change. Because when we talk about the use of IT more and more, so that will come under openness to change. So this is one of the basic principle of good governance, that it cannot always follow the stringent procedures and outdated ways of doing the business. So that innovation and that openness of change constitutes an important principles of good governance. Similarly, proper financial management, human rights, cultural diversity, social cohesion, and accountability. So there are challenges, as it is the case with other things. Political accountability, freedom of association and participation becomes a challenge at many times. The bureaucratic accountability, freedom of information becomes a challenge. Corruption at various levels, centralization of power, authority, violation of human rights, and lack of participation. So these are some of the common challenges which we have seen. But apart from it, we can say that civil societies, we were talking about the civil societies, and civil societies, the weak civil societies, where they do not have the properly defined objectives, that sometimes becomes a bottleneck, where they are not able to see how their objectives and how their functioning will ultimately affect the governance style at that place. So when they're not able to form a proper link between the people at one hand and the government at the other hand, so that is a major challenge. The institutions which are weaker, the different bodies, people's participation, lack of awareness, because many times people are not aware of the different instruments which are there, by virtue of which they can know many things, they can share very information, they have a right to know many things. So that kind of you can say that kind of environment is not there, where they are made to know all these things. So that becomes a challenge many times, because there are political environment there. And normally when we talk about this, like freedom of association and participation, that becomes negatively directed in certain cases, may not be so much positive. So that becomes a challenge. The kind of a bureaucratic system we have in our governance since age since ages, you can say. So it takes time to change, to make it people friendly, people responsive. As we were saying, that government has to be ethical also, governing process has to be caring, that needs to be changed. Similarly, the another part of our discussion today is Right to Information Act. You must be knowing about it. It was implemented in 2005 in India, and you must be knowing about RTI. So it is a complete mechanism for knowing information, and you can know certain information with the government, to so that it calls for more transparency and accountability. And this information includes, you can ask for records, documents, emails, opinions, advice, whatever maybe uh, you can say appropriate, which comes under the category of RTI, because there are certain information which cannot be shared with the general public, that also has to be known. So certain things which are mentioned here, that can be uh, asked for, the information regarding them can be sought for. And it includes what does it include actually? Right to, because it came from the right to freedom in 2000. It began with this, the bill was there, Right to Freedom Bill, and then in 2005 it was converted into Right to Information Act. So it has a right to inspect work documents and records, to take notes, extract certified copies of documents or records, take certified samples of materials, obtain information in the form of printouts, and you have to pay certain fees. And but if you are entitled, you can get the information whatever you have asked to the public information officer of the respective department of the government. You can ask the information, and that information will be made available to you within the stipulated time period, according to the information whatever you have stored. So we can conclude here that good governance, it's a very simple statement mentioned over here, that it may be rhetoric, but good government, responsive administration, and a legal system are eternal requirements. Because when we talk about uh, Suraj and Swaraj that we were talking, so it may seem to be little bit rhetoric, but it encompasses not many things. It has a good government, and what we mean by good government is the government which is transparent, which is accountable, the responsive administration, and a proper legal system. And there are external drives to this good governance, and we need to see that how local commitment comes into play, how how the reforms are introduced, and how indigenous ideas can help for improving the governance, because governance is mostly criticized normally, that it is not in place, and it is not being done, because at various levels, you must have seen in different organizations we talk about governance, and whatever the principles, objectives, and attributes we have seen here are applicable everywhere at all levels of governance. Maybe at a smaller level or at a larger level, the country level, the regional level, but it has a bearing at different levels, you can say. So it helps to improve the functioning, to improve the working, and ultimately it helps in the end results, because ultimately, beginning again with the first stage, that governance and development, we strive for development, the motto of uh, which is only people centric, means welfare of the people. That is ultimately, that should be the aim of the governance, good governance, and also the development. So both cannot happen without each other. For development we need to have good governance in place, and for good governance also we need developmental practices to work properly. So with this I'm concluding here. If you have anything to ask, we can discuss now.